You're in Braves country.
Left-hander Max Fried, the New York Yankees are in agreement on an 8-year, $218 million contract pending a physical. Sources telling ESPN it is the largest guarantee in baseball history for a left-handed pitcher. Another tweet here from Bob Nightingale of USA Today. The Max Fried 8-year, $218 million contract is the largest for a left-handed pitcher and fourth by any pitcher in history. No deferrals, no opt-outs. So the Yankees get their man in Max Fried. Clearly, once Juan Soto moved off the New York Mets case, the Yankees knew they've got some financial flexibility now. We can make some moves. You add Fried to this rotation. To me, it feels like a big pickup.
It's a great pickup. There's no doubt. Isn't it weird, too, to look at those numbers, 8 for 218, and think, oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Then you see it. No, it's the biggest ever left-handed pitcher after seeing those numbers. But, you knew that the Yankees had a plan B. As soon as Soto went to the Mets, they were going to get ready to go where they needed to go. At the end of the day, you win in the big leagues on the bump in the starting rotation. Max Fried's a great guy that they went out and get, probably one of the best on the market. So it's a great play right now for the Yankees.
Yeah, there are buyers, and then there are motivated buyers. The Yankees lose out on Juan Soto, then they find themselves in a bidding war for Max Fried against division rivals Toronto and Boston. And there's nothing like that to drive up a market when you have a motivated buyer like that. Max Fried, he's kept tremendous value because he's been durable. I know he had the forearm issue a couple of years ago, missed half of a season. But when you look at this contract here, the Yankees really do like to spread out the years to get that average annual value down. So average annual value, that's Tyler Glasnow money. It's close to Carlos Rodon money.
Yeah.
So yes, the total package is big, but that 8th year keeps the Yankees AAV number down as far as luxury tax purposes.
All right, so that was the reaction from the Max Fried move yesterday. 8 years, $218 million. And I'm sure most of y'all have already seen it, but I wanted to lead off the show with it. We're going to get you the Garrett Crochet trade details here in a second. We got a handful of clips for you today. So I got something from Snicker. I've got the Eovaldi signing, and like I said, the Crochet. Look, the one thing I'll say about the move that was made by the Yankees with Max Fried, 8 years, $218, and I get it, everyone's going to say it's too long of a deal, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing I'll say is this: the Braves might want to learn something from that. And the reason why I say that is we're always worried about the AAV being too high. It's way too high. It's way too high. But when you get a guy like Max Fried, who's 31, he'll be 32 next year, you get him in, and you know that the bulk of the contract, he's going to be worth the money that you paid, right? We don't expect Max Fried to be worth the 27-ish million a year that he's going to get when he hits the 8th and final year. Maybe not even the 7th year. But seasons 1 through 5, maybe even 1 through 6, I think he'll be pretty darn good. And the way modern medicine continues to improve these pitchers, you never know. Look, a lot of people probably didn't think that Chris Sale would go out and win the Cy Young this year. So the idea would be behind for the Braves to make, maybe they don't go that big, okay? 8 years, 218. Maybe it's not the Max Fried move that you're thinking about, but maybe if you go out and sign a guy, you add a couple of years, but you lower the annual value. And that would be, to me, if the Braves could learn from that, I think there's something there. I don't think you're going to be looking at a situation where you're ever going to get. I'll give you an example with Eovaldi. Eovaldi goes out and gets 3 years, $25 million per. Could the Braves have possibly have signed him to a 4-year deal with a little lower AAV? And you understand that in that final year, he may not be at the top of his game, but realize, A, the money that you're paying someone today is not going to be equal to the money in the fourth year of a contract because the salaries continue to go up. B, think about this. Let's say if you would have went 4 years with Eovaldi for 80, right? So he takes down 1 year, or maybe it's 82, 85 million, however you want to look at it. And he thinks to himself, all right, my annual value is going to be a little lower, but I'm going to get that extra $5 to $10 million. And a guy like Eovaldi, who's 35 years old, will be 39 at the end. The Braves the last 3 years have paid Charlie Morton $20 million, and we've seen what we've gotten out of Charlie Morton. He's not elite. He's not dominant, but he can go out there and shove and eat innings. And so that's what I'm looking at if I'm the Braves front office. You might want to start looking into that with the idea that not only are you lowering the AAV, but as you go through these contracts, the salary tax continues to climb. So 5-10 years from now, you're not going to have to worry as much about a guy who's making 20 coming across on you in 4 or 5 years as you would today. It's just a thought as far as what they could be doing. The Braves are looking at a couple of things, and we're going to get it to here in a second. But I did want to go ahead and hit you with the Garrett Crochet trade. It was a guy that a lot of people have talked about wanting to get to Atlanta. I never thought it was realistic because I kind of figured the White Sox were going to get a haul, and they did get a haul. The Braves don't tend to give this many top prospects in one trade, and the White Sox have done a great job on this particular trade, and they were basically reacting to the Yankees getting Max Fried, and they're looking at that division going, we've got to compete. If we're going to compete, and I do believe that this is kind of the sign that Corbin Burns may no longer have an offer from the Red Sox, right? But when they saw Max Fried go to their rival, they've got to go out and try to find their own left-hander. And Garrett Crochet's a little younger, obviously unproven. And for this to really count for the Red Sox, if you're a Red Sox fan or if you're just kind of paying attention to this, if you're really wanting to know, where does this go? Where does this sit? The number one thing you're looking at is this trade is not a great trade for you unless you get that extension. Now, I know Crochet's looking for the extension, but will the Red Sox give that money? So that'll be really interesting as well. Let's go ahead and get the details of the Garrett Crochet trade.
This is the trade. It's been reported. Garrett Crochet from the White Sox to the Red Sox. Wickelman Gonzalez, Kyle Teal, a first-rounder. Braden Montgomery, another former first-rounder. Chase Mydroth, who had 105 walks and 71 strikeouts in AAA this past season, all going to the White Sox. This is a massive deal between two teams that have history trading left-handed aces.
Chris Getz and the White Sox did very well here because they read the market. They understood that once Max Fried went to the Yankees, the Boston Red Sox had to answer, and they have. And this is a very good deal, I think, for the White Sox to get two of the Red Sox top 5 prospects, Kyle Teal and Montgomery. Based on what I'm being told right now, those two players, Teal and Montgomery, were not put in the same deal until today, until the same offer until today, which says that this was a response by the Red Sox to what had happened with Max Fried. Very rarely in today's game do you hear that big of a spread. 105 walks against 71 strikeouts. He's probably going to be a second baseman as opposed to a shortstop, but that is elite strike zone discipline. And of course, Gonzalez, also a very intriguing pitcher, held hitters to a below 200 average this year, better than 1 strikeout per inning pitched. I like what the White Sox did here.
All right, so there you have that, Garrett Crochet heading to the White Sox, and that's it. That really is a big move. It's a really big move. If assuming you can keep the problem with Garrett Crochet is not only is he demanding that he gets an extension, so you're already kind of dealing with the prima donna. You're also dealing with the fact that if you remember last year, the White Sox thought about trading him, and you couldn't. It was a non-starter because his agent was going to let him pitch in October because they're still wanting to get that extension. So you're going to be dealing with that kind of headache. Okay, so just realize that if you're a Red Sox fan. But as far as the talent goes, I think you're in pretty good shape. I really do. Garrett Crochet, we saw him here in Braves country. I mean, we saw him pitched lights out against Atlanta, and I know our offense wasn't what it was the year before, but nonetheless, Garrett Crochet, I watched him a handful of times last year, and when he was allowed to go out there, now last year he was typically being pulled around the 4th or 5th inning because they were managing his innings coming off of Tommy John, but nonetheless, Garrett Crochet is big time, and he definitely, what he does there, it makes you wonder is whether or not the Atlanta Braves are going to be able to get into the market for what we can perceive as a elite pitcher. It's not, if we're not going to be in on Max Fried, we're not going to be on Corbin Burnes. Corbin Burnes, he's going to break Max Fried's number. I guarantee it. Corbin Burnes, a couple of years younger than Max Fried, he's probably going to be looking for something ridiculous. I'll tell you what, the starting pitching market has really been unbelievable. It really has been unbelievable. By the way, it looks like Jacob Webb is signing a 1-year deal with the Rangers. Relief guy, he's been in Braves country a few years back. But the Jake Burger move, sending Jake Burger, third baseman of the Marlins, over to the Rangers. Good pickup by the Texas Rangers. A little surprising, but it really just shows you that the Marlins are absolutely tearing it down. Absolutely tearing it down. And when you're looking at a couple of the other moves that are going on, so first of all, the Marlins, with that move, the Marlins are going to be a much worse team, which is benefit to the Braves. But it also benefits the Phillies. It benefits the Mets. And once again, I do believe you're in a 3-team race. The Washington Nationals are up and coming. The Washington Nationals are up and coming. And you got to keep an eye on them. And they won the draft lottery yesterday. So they're going to get the number 1 pick in the draft, and they've got a good young core. Tanya says she doesn't care about the scene. What the hell are you doing in here, you clown? Anyways, looking at the other things that are going on as we get to what's going on with Atlanta and where they could be going. I did find it interesting. We'll play the clip for Snit here in a bit. But he talked about the fact that Murphy's getting more time. So it's very obvious whoever the Braves decide to put as their second catcher is not going to be someone who is going to play a ton of games. It's not going to be a straight split like we have seen with Travis d'Arnaud the last few years. I talked about it yesterday. I kind of feel like it's going to be, if you have 6 games in a week, Sean Murphy's going to play at least 4. Now they're still going to try to keep him as sharp and as rested as they can with the catcher situation and with the money they have in on him. Let's see what we have here. Chris is asking about, do we go after Tucker? So the problem with Tucker is this, and his agents actually came out and reacted. If you make a move for Tucker, Kyle Tucker is going to be a free agent next year. So if you make the move for Tucker, you're literally getting a 1-year rental. And what do the Astros expect for a 1-year rental? Because Kyle Tucker just saw the numbers that Juan Soto got, and he's looking at, man, I'm going to go out there and test the market. I don't think Kyle Tucker will get the same numbers as Juan Soto, because that was just a very strange thing. I still say the Mets way overpaid for Juan Soto, right? But I will say this. Kyle Tucker is a better player than Juan Soto. Top to bottom, he's a 5-tool player. And he would be an idiot to not go and hit the free agent market. And we know Atlanta is not going to come anywhere. So if you break down the AAV, forget the 765 number. Think about the AAV. Juan Soto got 51 a year. Braves don't come anywhere close to offering those numbers. So what we're really looking at is I don't think that we're even in the discussion for Juan Soto. Kyle Tucker. I do think there's an outside chance that we could be in the discussion for Framber Valdez. But once again, what do they want for a guy who's going to hit the free agent market? And is it a situation like, if you remember when we got the trade with Chris Sale, he originally was here for 1 year plus, right? It was an option. And we got the Red Sox to pick up the majority of the contract, if you remember, for the first year. And then the Braves were able to reconstruct his contract for the next 2 seasons, and so it ends up being a 3-year deal. Could we pull off something like that? If we do, I still think they are going to expect one of our better prospects. Do we really want to give up A.J. Smith-Shawver for his ceiling compared to what you know Framber Valdez's floor is? Do we want to give up Hurston Waldrop? It's a big question. And let's go ahead and hit the Snicker comments. We'll go ahead and play that so I can react to what he said.
I mean, I think Michael's ready to do that. I think, these last couple of years, he's probably, learning the grind that major league season is, and I'm sure he'll, as they go in and, what they end up doing is adjusting their workouts in the off season, and we see what the guy can do. I mean, he's a special talent, and when we can keep him on the field, for 150 plus games, he's got a chance of being a really, really good, strong, middle of the bat guy, middle of the lineup bat guy. And I feel really good about Murph this year. I think coming in knowing he's the guy, he's gonna take the lion's share of the work, and I think that's going to be good for him to know that. And I'm sure he's going to be excited to get that thing going. But I feel really good about Murph this year. I still feel good with our rotation because, like I say, we're a long way from March, whatever, that we open the season. So something will happen. We'll find somebody. Something will happen to where it's going to be good. Somebody's going to come along, or Alex going to make a move, or we're going to, like I say, somebody's going to jump the fence and like Schwellenbach did and do big things for us. So I feel good about our club.
So there you have Brian Snitker reacting to a couple of questions that they threw at him. Look, the Sean Murphy thing, I saw the question, is it true that Boston is going after Sean Murphy? That was rumored. I don't believe it now. Now, if Boston were to make a trade now, they've kind of gutted their prospects. So and the way that if you listen to what Snicker said there and a couple of other interviews that he's had, it doesn't sound like the Braves are realistically shopping Sean Murphy. We thought maybe there was something to it yesterday, but it really doesn't look like it. And I would be shocked anyways if they moved him, but if they did move him, I think it would be to play with a better lineup in the outfield, and you just you see what Drake Baldwin can do going forward. I just don't think that there's really anything to that. It's interesting. It would be interesting if they moved him and you're talking about clearing up $15 million, which obviously would be replaced by a couple of really low contracts, by Baldwin being called up, and then maybe it wouldn't, whether it's Chadwick Tromp or someone else filling in with the backup position. But it sounds it may be more realistic that Baldwin is going to come up sometime this year and help spell the catcher position with Sean Murphy. Maybe he starts out down at the minors once again, but if he continues to progress, you could see a situation where he ends up in the lineup on a regular basis by midsummer. See what we got here. that was let's see, Greg. Good to see you, Greg. So one of the things that we are looking at with all the moves that are going on, say Eovaldi's gone, and I hate that Eovaldi's gone. That was really one of the guys that I really was eyeing. I thought it was a realistic signing. And he's a big game pitcher for folks who don't really follow all the other teams in baseball, because I know how a lot of us just kind of get locked in on that one team. I really like Eovaldi, and I hate it that we didn't get him. But at the same token, I understand he's happy where he's at, and we kind of have to move on from that. The Jordan Montgomery rumors continue to fly. The question's going to be, because he's owed $30 this year, how much money are they willing to take on and take off of that contract to send Montgomery to in Atlanta? And then what? And so anytime you have a team that takes a lot of money off of the contract, what ends up happening is that you end up having to give even better prospects. If we took on the entire contract, we would hardly have to give up anything for Jordan Montgomery, because Arizona's just trying to clear space under their salary. But right now, what we're looking at is Atlanta, the way we are constrained with all of the different contracts that we have. The reality is, if we make a move for Jordan Montgomery, we're expecting them to take quite a bit off. I mean, I would honestly think if they took on Jordan Montgomery, they're going to be asking for them to take at least half, if not 2/3 of that contract, which means we would have to give one of our big starting pitchers back. And I'm talking about one of our prospects. Now, we're not moving Schwellenbach, we're not moving Strider, nothing, no nonsense like that. I'm talking about, we would have to assume, you're either going to assume it's Smith-Shawver or it's Waldrop. It's going to be one of the two. There's just no way getting around it. So with all that being said, I'm looking at, it's probably more likely, if we do go in the direction of the Sonny Gray. And Sonny Gray, though he's talked about not wanting to be traded, it has been said that depending on the location, he may be willing to be traded. Sonny Gray's from Nashville, Tennessee, just up the road from Atlanta, Georgia. I could see him wanting to come to Atlanta if that were an option. But once again, he is owed quite a bit of money, because when they signed that deal with Sonny Gray, it was backloaded the last 2 years, so they're only one season into that. And I do wonder if the game plan may be is, if we're not being really serious on the open market, it doesn't really look like we are, and we can't get a trade pulled off. And I do believe they're trying to make a trade. The question is, what are they asking back? And Anthopoulos just isn't the type that he's going to go and throw all his chips in and say, screw it, send me one of your older pitchers and get rid of all of his good prospects, very good prospects down on the farm. So the idea may be that maybe you go to spring just like Schwellenbach, and you heard Sticker allude to it a second ago. Maybe they go to the spring and give Smith-Shawver and or Waldrop a real chance. Now, we saw how bad Waldrop was when he came up. I think it's more likely they want to season him a little bit. And if we see him, it would be more likely that it's midway through the season, later in the season. But A.J. Smith-Shawver has been up and down so often, it seems like it would be his turn to try to maybe grab the reins and be that fifth starter. You're not expecting him to go out there and be some kind of let's be honest. Spencer Schwellenbach was phenomenal, but Spencer Schwellenbach's also a little older. Spencer Schwellenbach took the mound last year at 24 years old. And so Atlanta, if they decide to go with that young route, he'd literally be the fifth pitcher. When you're looking at our rotation right now, and because we're not going to have Spencer Strider to start the season, and if we don't bring back Charlie Morton, on a club-friendly deal, they're still going to have to bring somebody in. Because the way it sits right now, you're talking about having Chris Sale. You're now missing Max Fried. But you do have Schwellenbach. But Spencer Strider's not expected to be there till midway through the season. So that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. We'll go over the options here in 1 second. I did want to play the Eovaldi clip for you real quick.
Right-hander Nathan Eovaldi and the Texas Rangers are in agreement on a 3-year, $75 million contract, sources telling ESPN. Eovaldi, who is considered at the top of the mid-tier free agents, returns to Texas. Eovaldi's a guy who people will always remember if the Rangers did the playoffs. 2023, 5-0 over 6 starts, a 2.95 ERA. This last year, 104 ERA plus. A little surprised by 3 years for a guy going into his age 35 season, but he's been durable. He threw 170 innings last year, most since 2021.
He's been durable for a while there. We know what he can do in the postseason. There's no question about that. In a big game situation, you rely on this guy. But I think they're paying for durability, which is odd when you think about the fact that he turns 35 in February. He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries, but he's one of the hardest workers in the game. And that's why he's had this second stage in his career that just won't quit. It's a sign the Rangers do have a little more cash than we thought they had last year to keep a guy at this kind of number. Listen, the starting pitching market, pitching in general, the market has gone crazy already this offseason. So I was thinking originally maybe a 2 plus an option for Nathan, but 3-year deal. We don't see many for pitchers at this age. We saw it for Scherzer. We saw it for DeGrom. It's very rare to guarantee 3 seasons for a guy at this age, turning 35 in February. But the way he's going, I don't see any drop off in his stuff at all. So I get this. It's a really good sign for Texas to keep him there.
Okay, so there you have that. See, one question that I saw: do you think we get Sean Manaea from Mark? You know, he's intriguing to me, and I think one of the things that we could see because one of the things that could lend ourselves to get a Sean Manaea is this. Now, the question is, how many years does Sean Manaea want? He's had some injury problems. He's 33 years old. But the one thing that leads into the Braves possibly having a foot in, even though he just pitched for the Mets, and he was very successful this year on the tail end, is that he said in many interviews that when he turned it around, it was 100% because of the conversation that he had with Chris Sale. And Chris Sale kind of talked with him about changing his delivery. So would he want to pitch with Chris Sale? Would he want to come to Atlanta, maybe not ask for the moon and stars as far as what his worth is, because that's a real possibility. And you look at all the kinds of things that are the guys that are available, okay? And I'm going to switch over to the pitchers because right now I have them all pulled up. But the guys that are available, and I'm strictly talking about starting pitching, I still think one of our big things that we got to try to do is we got to bring A.J. Minter back. That's number one. But the guys that are available right now, and they're kind of ranked this way, as far as the different players that are available. By the way, Corbin Burns, if you're wondering, he just turned 30 years old. Jack Flaherty, he's 29 years old. I think Jack Flaherty, you might be able to get Jack Flaherty. So last year it was a $14 million deal. He had a pretty good season. He's probably expecting more. He probably wants a little security. I feel like Jack Flaherty is going to be looking for a 3 or 4 year deal. I just have my doubts that the Braves are going to do that. I want to make sure I have it. If you got any more questions, by the way, fire them away. I might have missed some at the beginning, so if you have to put them back in, I do apologize. I saw the question about Dylan Cease. The Braves have been rumored on Dylan Cease before, and I know that's why a lot of people are asking about him and wondering about him. I'm wondering about him myself. I'm very shocked that they all of a sudden are wanting to trade him again. I mean, he just got to San Diego, but whatever. Looking at a couple of the other options. So you got an older guy like Justin Verlander, and he previously was asking for $43 million. He's not worth 43. He's not even worth anywhere near that. But where's Justin Verlander wanting to pitch at? And he's not what he used to be. I mean, his WAR last year was in the negative. I think it was negative 0.3. So Chris is asking about Bo Bichette. So we talked about, I think this was yesterday's show, Chris, I can't remember, but Bo Bichette does not sound like he's actually on the trade market. They talked about it last year, but I've listened to a couple things from the Toronto general manager, and I don't believe that they are really down on Bo Bichette because of his bad year last year. The context that he gave was essentially he felt like Bo Bichette just had a bad year and they're ready to ride with Bo Bichette coming into this season. Now, I know GMs can say all kinds of things and then all of a sudden they make a trade, but he sounded very earnest in the fact that he was not going to be moving Bichette. Toronto's got a mess anyways because they're going to have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. going to free agent market next year, and he's going to get paid. And maybe they try to extend him before the end of the spring, but if they don't, I think Bichette's going to go out there and see what he can get too. The Orlando Arcia, I still think the Orlando Arcia thing is something that the Braves are really trying to work on, but I don't think we're going to get the names that we think we're going to get. There are some cheaper options out there in the free agent market, guys like a Paul DeJong that I've talked about several times. I think that's more likely what Atlanta does, that they're going to come in and bring a platoon system, and I'm fine with it. But you got to find somebody who can hit right-handed pitching very, very well. That's just number one with the bullet. They've got to be able to hit right-hand pitching because Orlando Arcia can hit left-handers. He's not absolutely awful against left-handed pitching. Doesn't mean you have to get a left-handed shortstop because we're talking about reverse splits that are a real possibility, right? But a guy like DeJong who's a right-handed power hitter, he for whatever reason he hits right-handers much better. So that's why I continuously bring up DeJong. I wanted him in a trade last year. We didn't get him. He was very cheap. He was just above league minimum last year. But back to the pitching part of it, AJ Minter, or they're going to have to find a replacement for AJ Minter, to me is the top priority. Then you start looking at the starting pitchers who are available. Sean Manaea is a guy who's going to be 33 years old by opening day. He made 14 last year, and that was kind of like the going market for guys who were that next tier, but they were trying to have a prove-it deal. Sean Manaea is probably going to be too high out of our range unless we do what I talked about earlier, where you give him a 4 or 5 year deal, but at a much lower AAV. And if they can do that, you have guys like Jose Quintana that are out there. Not a strikeout pitcher. He's a poor man's Max Fried is who he is. He's a guy that doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He's a ground ball pitcher, but he will always be out there game in, game out, eating innings. You got guys like Andrew Heaney that are out there. Not a huge fan of Andrew Heaney, but this could be the market that we're in. Lance Lynn, I think he's cooked, but you could get a very cheap value on him. He's going to be 38 years old, and you could get basically, I can't imagine they paid more than league minimum. Some of the more interesting options would be like a Nick Pivetta. Cal Quantrill is another guy that's out there. I still believe in my heart of hearts that the Braves are going to try to make a trade for a starting pitcher because it's the only way they can realistically stay underneath that tax bracket, the next tax bracket that loses you the draft pick, and you also get hit with the 50%. For every dollar you spend $1.50. And they're only $24 million away from that. And when you're talking about having to bring in a shortstop, an outfielder, a starting pitcher, and either bring Minter back or bring in another reliever, it's going to get tight. And if they do decide to go over, they're not going to go over by much because it gets extremely expensive. Walker Buehler is one that I've talked about in the past. I'll tell you what, I love the idea of Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler's 30 years old, and he's had some injury problems. But to me, Walker Buehler is the perfect candidate to say we're going to give you a 5-year deal, but it's going to be at a much lower AAV because you're coming off the injury problems. And we're willing to take that risk and give you financial security, but you've got to work with us and give us a little more of a window than just a 3-year deal. Like basically what if he goes out and signs his typical 3-year deal, he's going to be looking around what Eovaldi got, maybe a tad less. I'm saying if you're the Braves, go out there and offer him somewhere around, we'll say, 5 years, talking about maybe at an AAV at around 12, maybe a touch higher, 15. But Walker Buehler is a guy that I would take my chances on. And he, once again, grew up in Braves country. So you never know if he may just want to come home, right? Other guys that could be dart throws that you could see them bring in. And some of these guys they could bring in not on a guaranteed contract. I'm talking about guys that are at the bottom. You're going to start hearing people talking about Michael Soroka left and right because people love to rinse and repeat the names they know. He is a free agent out there. Michael Soroka, to me, is more of a candidate to be in your bullpen. Soroka has lost his velocity has gone down. He was in the bullpen. When they finally pulled him and put him in the bullpen in Chicago, he was a little better. And you can't expect Soroka to go out there and pitch 5-6 innings. But maybe he can be one of those guys that can go out there and be basically your front of the bullpen guy that can eat 2 or 3 innings when the game gets out of hand. I just kind of figure if they were going to do that, they would have kept Griffin Canning around. Colin Ray is a perfect candidate for that said position. Colin Ray, if you haven't followed him in Milwaukee, is a solid right-hander. He can do a swing start from time to time, but he would be a perfect candidate to put in the bullpen as a long man or maybe even a short man. Spencer Turnbull, same situation. He's had some when he's been healthy in Philadelphia and was given a chance to pitch, he actually pitched pretty well. Kyle Wright. Caleb's asking about Kyle Wright. Kyle Wright's going to be in the starting rotation for the Kansas City Royals this year. So I haven't heard that they're willing to trade him, and I can't imagine that they are. And if they did trade him back, we would probably get taken on it. John Means is another one. He's a left-hander. He's had some very, very good years. He had the big injury where he missed a ton of time, and he came back last year, but he's now a free agent. He's 31 years old. He's a guy. He's very much like a Max Fried. He's a left-hander who induces ground balls. Couple other guys that I don't think I've mentioned yet that would be interesting. Patrick Sandoval, he's 28 years old, and I've always wondered if Sandoval could get on the right team, if he could actually blossom, because Patrick Sandoval has been a very good starting pitcher, goes out there and eat innings, but he's not a number 1 or number 2 in your rotation, but he's a solid number 3 or 4. And the left-handed thing will keep him around for a long time. My biggest question is what does he expect? He's 28. Is he going to try to get a long deal, or is he willing to go out there and get a prove-it deal? Braves might have to go to the post on prove-it deals this year with some guys. Kyle Gibson, I don't have any interest in him. I know he's out there. He's 37. I'm not there with Gibson. See, Caleb's talking about Jeff Hoffman and Tanner Scott. Jeff Hoffman is actually wanting to hit the market as a starter. He's made it known to everyone, including his agent, that he wants an opportunity to start because he wants to up his market price. The only way I could see the Braves bringing in Jeff Hoffman is maybe they talk to him like they did Ronaldo Lopez and they say, look, we'll give you an opportunity to start, but are you willing to go back in the bullpen if it doesn't work out? Raylo was open to that idea. Hoffman may not be. And he's had some good outings there in Philadelphia. He's also had some implosions where a lot of Philly fans were really upset with him. But all in all, he's been a solid pitcher when given an opportunity. But as far as a starter, I don't know his makeup well enough to know if he can actually be a starter. The next tier, as far as talent-wise that you're looking at, if you're seeing names pop up whether they go to the Braves or not, you're looking at, obviously, Corbin Burnes is the top of the pile. But then let's go beyond that. Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, they are the household names, but both of them are in their 40s. And both of them have not looked great for a couple of years now. You do have the next, and a very interesting guy is Patrick Corbin. He was a waste of contract for the longest time with Washington. He helped basically be the swingman in the bullpen during the 2019 World Series Championship. After that, he's been a disaster. But the last, we'll say, 12 starts last year, he was pretty darn good. But I guarantee a National fan said, where the hell has that been? Was he holding back because he was waiting to become a free agent? It was really strange. I'm not a Patrick Corbin fan. I don't want anything to do with him. Now at 35 years old, he has definitely lost his velocity. But the next guys, when you're talking about the next guys as far as what are the perceived next tier, it's the Jack Flaherty, it's the Sean Manaea, and you've got Disco Stick coming off of injury, Anthony Desclafini, but I'm not sold on him whatsoever. Alex Wood is out there, but I really think at best he's a swingman out of the bullpen. And you do have Martin Perez. But to me, it's the first two that I mentioned, Flaherty and Manaea, and then Walker Buehler. And I'm a little intrigued on what you could do with the Nick Pivetta. Let's go ahead and hit the comments before we tail out of here. Let me see what we got here. I'm going to go in reverse. So, yeah, Mark, the NL East is going to be tough for the next several years. I don't see it dwindling off. We had our opportunities for the as soon as the Nationals fell off and the Phillies weren't quite there yet and the Mets were falling apart. That was kind of our window. Now we're going to be in a dogfight every year, and you may be getting in not as a divisional winner, but as a wild card. You're saying the Rays just made a trade, so I'll wait for the details on that. I don't know if that's actually legitimate or if that's or if it's just a rumor, kind of like the Touki Toussaint thing I saw pop up. That's just a rumor that the Braves could be bringing him back. But Touki Toussaint, at best, is a bullpen guy. Now, he did very well over in the tournament over in Japan, but all in all, Touki Toussaint has been a bunch of nothing. Let's see, the Mets. I don't think the Mets are done by any stretch of the imagination. The Mets still have to go out and get some starting pitching. Remember, they've lost a few guys. So the Mets are far from done. The question is, are they going to go out and get a Corbin Burnes, or are they going to go out and spend on like the lower tier guys? I think they're at least going to bring in a Jack Flaherty or Sean Manaea type. You didn't just go out there and spend $765 million on Juan Soto and say it's over. Kyle Wright, we already talked about that. Let's see, and realize a lot of these rumors that you hear, that's exactly what they are. They're clickbait rumors. So you can only really react to what actually gets done. Dylan Cease, I guess the Padres are almost about to tear it down again, or in Padre fashion, they'll make a trade but then bring guys in. But the Dylan Cease thing, he's the best pitcher out there on the market as far as a trade. The question is, what do the Padres want for Dylan Cease? And we went through that whole Dylan Cease possibility last winter. Nothing came about it. See, got anything else? I don't think we do. If anyone's got any comments or questions, fire them in there as we are about to. Yes, Dylan Cease is from Georgia. He's from Braves country, but that doesn't always mean anything. Hell, Dansby Swanson was from Atlanta. Look what he did to us. But I would be interested to see. It says Mike Vassell has been moved from the Phillies to the Rays. You might be talking about the. I do want to hit that up real quick. The Braves on the Rule 5 draft, real quick. They got the 26-year-old right-hander Anderson Pilar from the Marlins. They got a 23-year-old shortstop Christian Cairo from the Guardians, and both have to be added to the Braves 40-man roster. So these are guys we will probably see this year. Pilar, by the way, 93 to 95 mile an hour cutter, and can pitch multiple innings, a 2.64 ERA in 37 appearances from high A to triple A. So that's intriguing to me. That may be a bullpen piece, but keep an eye out on Anderson Pilar, excuse me. And the fact that he's coming from the Marlins. The one thing the Marlins do well, they develop pitching. Cairo, they're saying, is a plus-rated defender who runs the bases well. He had 26 stolen bases in the minors last year, but he's a light-hitting shortstop, batting .241 with not a lot of pop. He had 4 home runs, and that was in 108 games in AA and AAA. They also took minor league. So if you're not familiar with the Rule 5 drafts, you have the major league and then you have the minor league. These guys do not have to be added to the 40-man roster. They can be, but they don't have to be. The Braves took 4 in the minor league phase. They took a right-handed pitcher, Blaine Abiata of the Yankees, Samuel Mejia of the Rays, Lisandro Espinoza of the Cardinals, who's another shortstop, and Dylan Shockey, a catcher from the Pirates. The Braves did not lose any players in the Rule 5 draft, and that gets you caught up on that. I'm not 100% sure how many of those guys, except for, the Pilar guy is intriguing, but we may not see a whole lot of use out of those guys. But the fact that you got a shortstop, a 23-year-old shortstop that had to be put on the 40-man roster, and Christian Cairo, he could be a guy that we see at some point this year. I just don't think he's someone that we're going to try to build around, considering the fact that he's such a light hitter. And, okay, if you have 4 home runs, well, yeah, that's okay if you're getting on base. His slash line's 241, 354, and 326. And for folks who aren't familiar with what that means, it means he's not a very good batter. So it could just be a warm body to fill up. And you don't be surprised if down the road you see them DFA one of these guys. When you grab a guy from the Rule 5 and you put him on the 40-man, he has to stay there. So that's the one caveat to this, is that if they have to move, if they make a move, they make a signing, they make some trades, and they have to move them off, any of these guys I just mentioned could be gone tomorrow. So Teoscar Hernandez, no way in hell he goes to the Braves. Teoscar Hernandez, he is balking on a 3-year, $60 million offer right now from the Los Angeles Dodgers. If he's going to go to the Braves, the idea would be the Braves would have to probably give him a 5-year deal and a lower AAV. I don't think he's willing to take that. Teoscar Hernandez, to me, is more likely going to end up in the Northeast somewhere. Most likely the Yankees, Boston, or go back to the Dodgers. I think there's much more of a chance of Profar, Kenneth, because Jurickson Profar, the one thing that I didn't think about it being the tie that we mentioned yesterday, but before I read it, I didn't think about this. He is very good friends with Ozzy Albies. They basically are like besties back home in Curacao. So could that be a reason why he decides to come to Atlanta? It really just depends if he gets a big deal from anybody, then we have no real shot. But he had a very good year last year, so I don't think we're going to be able to give him a peanuts type of deal. And what are they willing to offer a guy who's going to be 31 this year? He had 24 home runs. He plays good defense. He's a great base runner. I love Profar in a Braves uniform. But other than that, I mean, I'm kind of at the point where with Profar, I got to see it to believe it. But I do think the Braves are going to most likely, the biggest move we make is going to be a trade. All right, we got to jam out of here. We'll be back tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, y'all, it's going to be a lunchtime edition, noon Eastern. So noon Eastern will be on. I'm going to change the time off on tomorrow's show as soon as I get off here. But we'll see you next time, and y'all have a great day. And if you got any more questions, anything that you want to ask, get them ready and pepper away. Tomorrow we will be here at noon Eastern for a lunchtime edition as the winter meetings come to a close.
You're in Braves country.